Joining me right now is former Acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matt, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Your reaction to Madison's report?
Well, it's heartbreaking. I mean, if you think about right now, the economy is finally coming back from COVID. People are traveling again, and you have these small business owners that depend on tourists because of Biden's failed policies at our southern border are losing their businesses. They're losing their way of life, and it's tragic. And it's, the policy, they should have seen this coming. They should have known that if you allow millions of people illegally into our country, if you reverse all the policies we put in place in the Trump administration, you're going to end up with these types of situations. It's just another example of where Joe Biden and his administration are not working on behalf of the American people. They seem more interested in foreign nationals and other countries' borders than they do the United States of America.
Yeah, and he just refuses to hold China to account, will not push China at all on anything. I mean, what else can they do with no repercussions? Meanwhile, you've got the Norfolk Southern now saying that it has removed 15,000 pounds of contaminated soil, 1 million gallons of contaminated water from the Ohio crash site. They were reportedly offering $1,000 settlements to residents there. 8 negligence lawsuits already filed against the rail company, seeking more than $5 million in damages. Matt, whose fault is this? I mean, could residents sue the state or even the federal government now that we know that this derailment has caused, potentially cancerous substances in the ground, the water, and the air?
Maria, obviously, the courts are going to have to decide, and these cases are going to move forward as to who's responsible. Was the state of Ohio culpable? Was the United States government? Obviously, there's some sovereign immunity issues in suing a state or the nation. But at the same time, I think this train company needs to not only be generous, but they need to, I think they're trying to get rid of these cases quick because they see they have significant liability. This town is forever negatively impacted. These people are going to have lifelong health consequences, and obviously they deserve to be compensated. I think if this was anywhere else, if this was a major city, you would see the Biden administration coming in and trying to insert themselves in this, but because it's small town, flyover country, place like where I'm from, they just seem to be ignoring these fine people in East Palestine.
Well, you've also got chaos in Austin, Texas over the weekend. Street racers took complete control of a major downtown intersection. One officer was hurt as people smashed cop car windows, set off fireworks. A giant mob was even seen forcing one of the cruisers down a freeway. The National Police Association wrote on Twitter, quote, Austin voters wanted a mayor, city council, and Soros DA who treat cops as criminals and criminals as victims. This was not only predictable, it was predicted. Matt, we've got chaos everywhere you look.
Maria, I mean, that obviously absolute chaos, but let's remember how we got here in Austin, Texas. The city council and mayor cut funding for the police by 1/3. That caused a lot of retirements. It ended classes of trainees. And so we end up in this situation where after the state of Texas makes Austin restore that funding, it's too late. The damage is already done. The police are demoralized. Obviously, this situation is lawlessness and chaos, and this is what you get from these policies of defunding the police, blaming the police, trying to take away, their rights and their, powers to make sure the communities have law and order. I think this is, again, we're seeing this in these woke communities that did this in response to the summer of 2020, and this is the consequence of that.
Well, the White House's answer is let's change the conversation. Send Biden to Ukraine.
Yeah. Send Biden to Ukraine, make sure we have equity across the entire federal government. I mean, these policies are not going to work. They're going to do permanent damage to our country. Unfortunately, who suffers? The American people, the small towns and communities in places like Austin, Texas, where citizens, are having to put up with this kind of lawlessness and chaos.
I mean, it's just incredible. You've got Joe Biden in Ukraine and Poland, while people are worried about their health and their lives in Ohio, where New Yorkers are having to deal with a massive onslaught of illegal migrants, as are the rest of the country, by the way. When you've got, economic issues eating us alive, 40-year high inflation, debt of $31.5 trillion. We're about to have a debt showdown unless they stop spending. How much longer can America withstand this kind of governance and leadership, or lack of, with all of this chaos and all of these problems occurring everywhere you look?
Yeah, I have very little faith in the federal government solving any of these challenges. And to your point, inflation continues to eat away at Americans' pocketbook. You're seeing credit card usage as high as it's ever been. And I think the American people, rank and file folks, are suffering pretty dramatically, and it's going to take some real leadership. We'll see if the House can start to lead with some policies that make rational sense and improve people's lives. But I don't think the next 2 years, to me, seem a little bleak as it relates to just ordinary citizens in, like, my home state of Iowa, where the state government is doing well, but it can only do so much when these federal policies continue to drive inflation, debt, and the types of policies that don't allow the people to flourish.